Morning, Gerald 200. How are you? It's Monday morning, the 8th day of March, 2021. So now we're going to continue to apply a lot of what you've learned to the reality of your lives. Okay, so this is a very, very useful course. And what we're going to be discussing is could be your present and for sure is your future. And that is dealing with older Americans. Okay. If you're not from this country, it'll be dealing with older members of the population of whatever country we return to, because all the westernized countries are dealing with this issue of caregiving. And caregiving has a broad spectrum in terms of different needs. It could be financial support, it could be social and emotional support, and then it can get down to the nitty gritty of healthcare support and just activities of daily living that we're going to go through today. Awesome. Do keep your eyes on the prize. Okay, so CT2 is coming around the bend right there. All right. And what do we see here? That we will open next week the midterm. Okay, covering the first half of the course, and you can see it's open for an entire week, and so you can pretty much take it whenever you want. Once you do open it, you have to complete it. Okay. Alrighty. And we'll get into the details of that as well as next week. But let's just make this short and sweet. Let's go into our weekly assignments here. So I'm going to click on the left taskbar right here, GERO 200 weekly assignments. It's going to take me right into this week's assignment. And you guys should pat yourselves on the back looking where you're at. So we've really set you up with these overviews of global aging, of the reality of aging in our country, using the Pew Research Center here, a little bit of the biology, what's putting us at risk for these, chronic diseases, aging, and they're the ones again that have the most personal and financial impact. Okay, these chronic diseases of aging don't go away. They just slowly but surely can get worse and worse and worse. Yes, you can exercise and improve your diet, and do everything you can, have sociality. But Father Time does march on. But that being said, we don't want to go anywhere now, do we? Okay, all right. So we dealt a little bit with the psychology last week. It's been I went surfing again on Saturday, and God, it's hard not being able to surf like I used to. But I still go out there and I try. So now we're going to go into caregiving. Okay, and it is exactly what you think that phrase means, caregiving. Okay, and I love this picture right here. Okay, and it shows you the spectrum. Okay, of caregiving. And we can see right here, we can see the mother caring for her small son. Okay, and in terms of familial piety, okay, in terms of the collective agreement of a family, you would hope that the son would then turn around and care for his older mom when she needs him. Okay, we looked at this in terms of dependency ratios in this class. Okay, um, and you guys will be sandwiched in the middle. Okay, you guys may have a child and an older parent that you'll have to deal with, and so it is a significant undertaking in terms. Believe me, having children is overwhelming, and then having to deal with an older parent is, and I found myself sandwiched. Okay, as did my wife. Okay, we had two kids. Okay, teenagers, and then we had both my father, my mother get really old, start suffering from a lot of diseases, which meant I had to help them as best I could. I lived in Southern California with them, and so that heaped on even further personal responsibility. Okay, so so we get the crux of it just from that image. Okay, and then we can look at it. This is going to be such a simple read right here, guys. And and again, it's just the background. We've talked about this kind of, the population or the demographic. That's what population analysis is: demographics, imperative. Okay, of global aging. Okay. We talked about it in the U.S., like I said. Okay, we went over these chronic diseases of aging. Okay, non-communicable. Okay. We also saw the impact of communicable disease this year. Okay. And what that did in terms of this dynamic of young America versus old America. Okay. Usually these viruses rip through young populations. That's just the way it is when we look at colds and flus. But this time it was just the way that the virus invaded the body, and the protein that it tagged was related to kind of an imbalance that happens as we get older, and whoom, we saw that the most severely impacted were the older adults in terms of the coronavirus and subsequent COVID-19 disease. Okay, so this paper kind of goes over things, which is excellent. Don't forget to please open your quiz as we get into this, because it's easiest just to read the paper, look at this figure right here that we provided, which is an additional support figure, and answer your quiz that way. Okay, so we're looking at again. You can see this is a fairly short article in terms of baby boomers, and it's really just a review of what you guys already know, which is kind of awesome. Okay. So this right here is the kind of abstract, is the overview. And so they have the true numbers in 2010, and then they look at projected changes by 2030 and 2050. And here in the United States, in 2010, because in 2010 I was a fairly not a young buck, but I was middle aged. Okay, so here we are and at 2020. So I was I was 53 years old. 54. What am I talking about? I'm 55 years old. I can't even do my math. Okay. Julie's laughing at me. I was going on 55. All right, all right. How's that sound? I'm 64 right now, so going on 55 in 2010. Julie is younger than me. She's 7 years younger, and we were in the throes of caregiving for our parents. Okay, there were a lot of us around. I was the end of the baby boom generation, and you will continue to care for your 85, 90-year-old parents when you're in your 70s. Okay, and that's just part of the familial or filial contract that we kind of have as a culture. And I'll talk a little bit about where things have gone wrong. That's my dog shaking her brains out first thing in the morning. Okay, Bella. All right. So, and then we see the changes that happened, because you've heard about this glut in the population. Okay, a lot of boomers. You guys, subsequently, our children. It's real competitive out there. Just the changing dynamic of the world. You're more urban, less rural. You don't need a bunch of kids that would serve as employees out there pulling strawberries in the fields. So fertility rate plummeted. Okay, that means there's less of you to take care of us. Okay, and so we go from, and we saw this before. Okay, when we looked at the old age dependency ratio in your first paper, your CT1. That we see these changes. All right, to 7 caregivers, family caregivers in 2010 for every person that's at risk over the age of 80. It goes in 2030 from 4 to 1, and then in 2050, this is when you guys are prime time. You have kids. You're in middle age. It's going to be 3 to 1. So the dynamic is and the responsibility is going to be enormous. Okay. Alrighty, so when they go in here, they consider, what is it do we need? There's this demand for long-term services and support. Okay, so I need you to be my advocate when I get older. I want my sons to be my advocates. I'm not going to be as tech savvy. All right, so I may need some assistance. Okay, in terms of them being my fiduciary. Okay, and making sure that nobody takes advantage of me financially. Okay. In terms of paying bills for me, in terms of just overseeing my 401(b) investments or my individual retirement accounts, my distribution of funds, how they're going to get money. We're going to need a team effort. Okay. When I get sick, who knows? Maybe I'm going to be hell on wheels driving a car, and they're going to take my keys away from me. Okay, so somebody's going to have to get me to the doctor. All right, somebody's going to have to get me, maybe even to just because my sons are working, they can't handle this, so they need to go out there and screen and find daycare. somebody that will come help me at my house, or someplace to take me. All these different options, okay? And then if the responsibility becomes too big, um, then you start grappling with things like assisted living, and then the next year when the responsibilities becomes enormous, these would be nursing homes, okay? And obviously, it's a very cultural thing, and we're going to get into that in this discussion. It all can be done at home if you have the resources. That being said, assisted living facilities and nursing homes are not cheap. All right. So this kind of goes into the numbers. Okay. So like I said, a simple read. I'm not going to read this for you, but 2/3 of us, people like me, that I'm going to believe I'm going to be able to rely on my kids to help me out. Okay. And we kind of go through, the different types of projected numbers when we look at long-term services. Okay, and that's what this is right here. So long-term means they're not going away. Okay, all right. So 70% of people over the age of 80, okay, have some kind of disability. Right? I have it right now. I have pretty significant arthritis from multiple sports injuries. They're not getting any better. Okay, and it's gonna impact my mobility. So I have in gerontology, in social services. So maybe some of you guys might consider social work. We call these things activities of daily living. Okay, it sounds pretty rudimentary, but getting in and out of the bath. We modified all of our baths to be age friendly. Okay, we have a shower downstairs, but that's just a walk-in shower. Okay, grab bars, all these things you need to start wrapping your head around. So when your parents start talking about, or if you're part of the decision making about home modifications, think about, those 10 years when maybe, getting in and out of a tub is really not cool. Okay. Alrighty. Toilets. The toilet should be higher. Okay. It's hard to get down really low when you get older. Um, just things like this, like I talked about, meals, paying bills, going to the store, all these things are something you have to wrap your head around. And so this is a big economic thing. How much are you willing to pay somebody to do it? Or in terms of how much time can you, take off work? Or maybe you have a great job and you get paid no matter what you do. All right. So all these things are coming under consideration. And then they kind of march through the ratios, all right? So they go from, like I said, 1990 to 2010, 210 to 230, and we can see what happens here, okay? And really remarkably, early on during this period right here, there were, when I looked at my parents, there were more. My parents had their generation had a higher fertility rate, than I have, okay? So there were more people around to help at the family level. Okay, more people around that took on those careers, like a social worker. And so we see right here, okay, that when I was in this age range, like I said, so when we turned 45, so right here at 2010, I was 54. So there were a lot of us. So me and my two brothers, we all live in the same Southern California community, different cities. My mom lived in Monterey Park, where I grew up, and I'm down here in Laguna Niguel, but it was a doable thing that we would all, help out. And my mom lived in her house, the house that I grew up in, until she was 92 years old. All right. So not bad, not bad. Okay, that's kind of what you want out of life. Okay. Then, what happens is we're getting older. Okay, and so we start needing the help, and there's fewer people to help us. We didn't have the kids. Okay, we had kids late in life. Right? I'm 64. I have a 19-year-old upstairs. Okay. All right. So he's still trying to wrap his head around about becoming an adult. Really doesn't want to have to deal with being my caregiver, but it's coming down the pike. I also have a 25-year-old. Both are late in life. You have to understand. 39 was when I had my first child, and then 44, almost 45 when I had my second. Okay. Alrighty, so this is the reality. So this is this support ratio. Okay, this is just like your first critical thinking assignment. All right, where we're looking at dependency ratio. Okay, same drill. Okay, so and then we look down here again. We've seen this, the projected age and population. Of people 45 to 64 is going up and up and up, and you guys are going to have the same problem. Believe me, there's a lot of you. A lot of millennials, a lot of there's a lot of people, and not enough people coming down behind them to distribute the responsibility. It's all about distribution of the responsibility. All right. Okay. And again, yeah, the big one, so we can see, it's a slower curve when we call it 45 to 64, okay, up through 2050. And then on a percentile basis, obviously in terms of millions, it's not as much. So we see the scale here is 5 to 40 million. Over here, the scale was, on this side was 0 up to 120 million. But the reality is the percentile increase is much bigger in terms of what's going on, and more 80-year-olds, and we're not ready for that. We demonstrated that this year with the coronavirus, and we weren't ready for it. Okay, all righty. So, and then what's really cool then is you can read about the little bit more about maybe some solutions. Okay, and I want you guys to come up with solutions. Then you come down here and check your state, which is kind of a trip, to do that. So we're looking at California, and you can see the decline right here in terms of the caregivers and the support ratio, right? It's the age dependency ratio again. But how many caregivers are there, that are going to be to support? And we see the numbers are going down to less than 3, and then you start looking around, and it's a much greater older population in a place like Arizona, right here we see, and so theirs is 1.8. Okay, and we start nosing around and seeing where are the big ones, what are the big transitions? Okay, and we can come down here. We see Nevada. Okay, all right, that's mostly young people. All right, where else we can look at here? I'm looking around here. Let's look for a big one. How about Utah? All right, so Utah is a different drill. Okay, fertility is part of the culture. People that are of the Mormon religion tend to have larger families. Okay, so they have a bigger support ratio. Okay. Yeah, so it's just kind of interesting to kind of nose around and see where things lie in terms of where the biggest impact's going to be. All right, cool. All right, so that's that. We reiterate that with this figure right here. Okay. And again, it's just compressed, and we look at going from 2010, where we had 7. Okay, right, we saw that right in here. Okay, to this massive decline. Okay, and as an infrastructure, as a society, as an individual, you guys got to get ready. All right, so then we go into I think this is really cool. Okay, we have a couple of things. We look at cultural differences. All right, so this right here is for your discussion. All right, so you can go right in here to the American Psychological Association, and they talk about cultural differences. All right, so so I grew up in Monterey Park. Okay, that unto itself has its own culture. Okay, very different. My wife's grandparents were from Southern Illinois. Then via New Orleans, very different. And then we can look at your ancestry. Are you of that Hawaiian culture where everybody is an auntie and an uncle? Okay, are you from Southeast Asia? Okay, are you from South America, Central America? Are you from your ancestors from Africa, Europe? Everybody has a different dialed up kind of culture of caregiving. And then we had the U.S. Okay, and I hope that we will change our ways. We are capitalistic, and it was all about and I was I was guilty of this. I turned 18 and I skedaddled. Okay, I moved out and I never returned. Okay, I did not live in the same home, and so caregiving was tough. Luckily, I had 2 brothers. But the cultural thing that a lot of other countries demonstrate is that you're much more powerful financially if you have what's called a family collective. Okay, and so you can buy the most badass house in the most badass neighborhood by pooling your financial resources. So you would have your mom, your parents, your grandparents, and you all contributing to the funds. Just get a big 8-bedroom house. You distribute the wings, and you're golden. Okay. Then you can you'll find you'll have more money, and you can invest better. Right? Just a thought. So this kind of goes through cultures. Okay, we have gender issues. Okay, and specific cultures that affect how you assign your gender. Okay, So really, really, really cool. Short article. It's that really short article for your liking when you do the discussion. Then you come back in here and you watch these videos. This is really great. This guy talks about, again, this dramatic difference. People in other countries feel like it's an honor to be there and support their older family members. Okay, whereas in our country we feel like it's more of a burden. Okay, and so psychologically, when you tag something as a burden versus an honor, you are going to be very, very affected in terms and more likely to be depressed and have anxiety, etc. And he discusses this right here. Okay, and again, is this something that you will savor and feel like it is your duty and honor, or is it something that you will regret as a burden that's holding you back? That's the question you have to ask. Okay. So that's what this video is about right here. And again, it's a short video, so you go ahead and check that out. Sometimes we are a mobile society. We're even mobile to the point of being global. So you may find yourself working in Italy. Your parents at home in Illinois, and you now have to recruit somebody to help you out. And this is the beauty of social workers. Social workers are like family planners on rocket fuel. They're licensed, okay, and they can be direct you in terms of management of the household, financial planning. Okay, again, they're licensed. They are held responsible. Um, they can be an advocate for your parents as a patient advocacy there. And so we look right here at the many different jobs that a social worker has. Okay, first of all, you're not going to make a ton of money, so you have to have this inner core um, strength of wanting to help other people. Okay, what you do is you sit down and through your training you make up a spreadsheet, okay, an equation, and find out what it has to do, what the resources the person has financially, mobility, and then you start, because you are so networked, refer them to all the different centers that will help them. This will be community centers, this could be medical centers, this could be financial assistance centers that do it for free and pro bono is the term I was looking at. Okay. Um, and again, you have to be certified to do this. Okay, and so we're talking about when you look at a social work as a job, certainly these are family service agencies, but there are social workers get specialized, just like doctors get specialized and become a cardiologist, become an oncologist, become a pulmonologist. Same drill for social workers, where you can be specialized where you're doing health and community centers, hospitals. So there's always a social worker when you are in the hospital that will help you in terms of your discharge and make sure that you have everything you need. You can go into private practice. You can work for a government agency. You can work with schools, which is an offshoot of a government agency, and then there's this really, really necessary specialty called child protective agencies, where children specifically may need help. So anyway, so those are that's the background information about this. Okay. So we want you to address these issues right here about, do you want to care for your parents? Do you want to punt them to some nursing facility? We've seen that nursing facilities are the people that work boots on the ground are so underpaid that that's a serious issue, okay, that our society has to come by. The reason we had such rampant spread of the coronavirus is these people were making next to minimum wage, and so to cover their bills, they use their skill set, which is to work with older people in a nursing facility, but they oftentimes would work in 3 or 4 facilities, okay? So what they did is they were vectors. They were carriers for the virus, and they took it from facility to facility to facility. So we got to do something to find out a way to pay these people better. Okay, awesome, guys. So I'm loving how you guys are skilled and learn how to navigate life through this course, and I'm proud of what you guys have achieved. So fight on. We'll see you next time.